welcome back. Out in the shop again today because I got something in I've been waiting on. So without much jibber jabber, let me show you what it is. All right, so here we go. We got a little box in the mail, actually UPS, and we're gonna see what it is. Oh, there we go. That's what we got. Yep. Finally got the axles in the drive shaft back in. Drive shaft is actually still in the house. Hadn't brought it out here to the shop yet. But here we go. Axles freshly gone through by DSS. And let me get this cardboard out of the way so you guys can see. But there they are. Refreshed, ready to go. Even supplied me with new spindle nuts or whatever you want to call them. So yep, they are ready to go. And I'm ready to get these back in, ready to get this thing back together and back in there. And it is time, is actually way past time. So without too much talking, I want to go ahead and get this done. Try to get the whole rear cradle back in the car today. Not sure if it's going to happen, but hopefully I'll get the cradle in. I think I'm going to go ahead and put the cradle in before the axles. The axles are heavy. So that'll be less weight and it'll be less awkward trying to get the cradle in. So I may do that and then put the axles in and then put the knuckles on, put everything back together. But before we put the axles in, there is one thing that I want to do. When I removed the differential itself from the cradle, I actually did spill a little bit of the diff fluid. So I got some fluid today, so we can go ahead and change that out. Get some fresh fluid in there since everything's out anyway, and I did spill some, so I know there's probably not enough in there to lubricate and keep the differential cool. So went to the parts store after some research online. Wanted to find something local that I didn't have to order and wait on, but I picked up some royal purple. I went with 75W140. After some research, I think the factory calls for like a 7585 or 7580, something like that. But I also found out they went with that because it's thinner and it can help with mileage and stuff like that. So I went with the thicker oil because they say it's better for like heavier loads and shock of the rear end, because we are going to be doing a lot of drag racing with this car, and you know, I want the oil to be able to protect the differential as much as possible. So that's what I went with. That's what we're going to change out today, and then hopefully get things starting to go back in the car, and we'll see how far we get. But stick with me, let's get this going. So while we're letting this drain out, I do want to mention that the plugs that go in the differential, you do have a fill plug and you have a drain plug. Drain plug is obviously the lowest plug. Fill plug is a little bit higher up. If you notice, I took an Allen wrench and kind of put it in the fill plug to reach down to see about where the oil level was, so I can make sure I get it about to that same spot, make sure I got the right amount of oil in the differential. Now I would like to mention that these plugs are magnetic. You will get some metal, you will have some metal on there. Especially this car, this is actually the first time that I have changed the differential fluid. So I did expect to see some metal on there. You will have some on there from normal braking and, you know, driving as far as the rear differential goes. So any change after this, I would say I probably wouldn't expect to see much more. If I do see a significant amount on the next change for the differential, then there might be something to be concerned about. But for the first change, I think it's okay. Did get some metal on there, but like I said, that's due to typically break-in of the differential when the car was new. So anyway, it's pretty much drained out, so you get the drain plug put back in, and we'll get some oil back in this. Alright, so I got the differential filled to where I'm going to fill it to. What I did is I put the Allen wrench back in the fill plug hole and went just a little bit above where the level was prior to me draining the old oil out. So that way I should be about where it needs to be. I also read online that the level should be about 7 or 8 millimeters below the bottom edge of the fill hole. So that's about where it was. So now I'm gonna tighten the plug back up, and then we'll be ready to hopefully maybe put this cradle in the car. We'll see. We'll see how far we get today. Alright y'all, so real quick before I go any further, I do want to let you know the cradle is actually up in the car. The bolts have been started. They are not tight, but I kind of wanted to show y'all how I did it. It's kind of a weird little process. Doing it by yourself, this is not the most fun, but let me show you what it took to get it up in there so you can, see what I'm talking about. And if you need to do this yourself, if you have the S550, you'll know what to do or how I did it. Maybe it'll give you other ideas, but let me show you what I'm talking about. All right, so from back here you can see kind of how I've got this set up. I've got my floor jack underneath the sway bar. Basically what I did is I put the entire cradle on my transmission jack, which you'll see right there. It's sitting on the transmission jack. I put some boards underneath the front of the differential to kind of keep it level as it could be. And then I use the transmission jack to roll it under the car and start lifting it up. The problem is that I was leaning back just a little bit too much, so that's why I put the floor jack underneath the sway bar and was able to, you know, lift it up more level as far as how it bolts into the car. Now what I did was the front bolts, I do have the lockout kit on this car, and here's the front lockout, which is this piece here, and the bolt runs up through the middle of it. So basically I started bolting up the cradle without this lockout in place, so that way I had room to play in there with the bolt. I could actually get it started. So got the front two started, and then I was able to jack up the cradle with the floor jack on the sway bar there. I've got the tooth on the pad on that jack on the other side on the front side of that sway bar, so it's kind of hooked around it. So it's on there pretty good. I didn't think it was ever going to slide off or anything like that, so no worries there. And then once I was able to get it up enough, here are the rear bolts, or here's the passenger side rear bolt, and I was able to get that started and get that up in there in the driver's side as well. So it took a little time, you know, back and forth and getting the springs in, you know, just basically back and forth either side of the car, you know, by yourself, jack a little bit, you know, adjust everything, and, you know, keep going. And once I got the front two bolts started, then I was able to just jack the back up and get it started. So let me get this thing tightened up, let me get them torqued down, and then we can continue, see how far we get. All right, y'all, so I did a lot of work off camera, and man, I'm beat. This thing beat me. But we got the cradle in, and we've got the suspension in. Everything is pretty much bolted up and torqued down. What I've got left is I got to put the brakes back together. What else? Got to put the drive shaft back in. I did not get to the drive shaft today. And I need to tighten up and torque down the nuts for the axles out here on the hub end. So, but let me turn the camera around, let me show you both sides real quick so you can see where we're at. And yeah, man, we're getting close, but I'm a little too tired today to keep going. So, but let me turn the camera around so you can check it out. So here is the passenger side. As you can see, everything is installed. Went through torque specs and torqued everything down, and like I said, the only thing we got left is we got the nuts for the axles here. We've got to put the brakes back together and get those on there, but everything else is torqued down and ready to go. And of course also the drive shaft. Let's go to the driver's side. Check this out. Same thing over here. Everything's torqued down and ready to go. Same deal, just gotta tighten up the nut there on the axle. But everything is torqued, ready to go. Changed the shock settings back to a kind of a baseline, so we can kind of start over with this thing, because we got new parts on here too. We got the bearings, you know, in the spindles and the control arm. So, you know, I want to start over next time I go to the track. And some might think, well, you're supposed to load the suspension before you torque anything down, but remember, everything is spherical bearing on this suspension setup back here now. There are no more bushings on this, so the suspension is free to move on the bearings, and there is no binding of bushings. So in my opinion at least, you can go ahead and torque everything down with the suspension unloaded. So we should be good to go. If there's something I'm missing, you know, guys, please comment down below and let me know, but I'm pretty sure with spherical bearings I'm good to go. But man, that is gonna do it for today. I'm telling you, I'm beat. It's not like real hot out here, and well, it's humid because, you know, of course it's going to rain, and so once the rain stops, you know, the humidity just goes through the roof. But you know, this is all I want to really do today. I've accomplished a lot. You know, we changed the Changed the oil in the differential and got the rear cradle in. The axles are in. Everything's bolted up. Everything's torqued down. Everything is ready to go. We just got a little bit more to finish up. But man, when you're by yourself, it's very time consuming and it'll wear you out quick. But anyway, we will get back on this soon. Hopefully get on the ground and hopefully go for a drive, man. Drive this car. It seems like I haven't driven this car in forever, which I really haven't, because when we got back from Ford Takeover, I tried the whole burnout thing and, you know, broke the car. So that was a few weeks ago. I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna quit rambling because I'm tired and I'm gonna go outside and catch this AC. But hope you like this video. If you did, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. We're almost back on the ground with this car. And we'll see you on the next one.